Good morning, friends. We are learning our subject Python for Data Science 3150713. In that, we are learning module 1, that is Python and data structure. So in last lecture, we have seen while, for, and we can say we have seen the break and continue too, right? Okay. So this is what last example we have seen, that was of break. Okay. Now we want to learn functions. An independent, self-contained entity of a program that performs a well-defined task. It has name, that is a function name. Arguments, that is to pass information to function. Body, that is logic of the function. Return value, that is after calculation, the value is given to the caller of the function. Right? Let's see very simple function, that is the add function, which will do the addition of two numbers and return the result. Okay. So for that, for defining the function in Python, we need to have def, define, right? So def space, whatever is the function name, after that in parenthesis, we can have the parameters which we want to pass to this function. Colon, as we know that we do not have braces in Python, so we are using it as colon, fine? Indentation is must. After that, we can say we are writing return a plus b. Simplest definition of a function, right? How to call the function? Print, add 5 and 4. So it will give us the output, that is say 9. Let us try that in our program, right? That is, we can say we want to start with functions, right? Okay. So very simple function we have written, and that is add function, right? Let me run this. It is connecting initializing, we can see here, right? Connected RAM and disk, and now we are getting the output as 9, right? Now here, the way you are using in say C language, what we used to have is our main function is there, then after we are having other functions. So can we have something like that? Let me write it that way and show you. Let me put it here, right? Now let us see. Does it have any problem? No. Fine. So we can say that we need to have the definition of function as well as we need to have the calling of the function. Is it so? Let me write one more function, okay? Because once we run this program, the add definition is there in the memory. Okay, so let me have one more, say sum. You can have the doubt, no? So let us have that. Check it out. Say 1 and 5. Okay, we want to do the subtraction. Now I am defining the method. I want to say that if I call the function and then after I write the definition, is it creating any problem or is it fine like C? Or if we write the definition first, then if we call, is it fine or not, right? So let's see that. Definition sub Then we can say two parameters, that is A and B, colon. Colon is must. And we can say indentation is also must here, right? Return. What we have to do is A minus B. Okay. Now let me run this. Oh, it is creating problem. Print sub 1 5. What is the problem? Name sub is not defined. Why it is so? It is already there, no? It is available here. Let me run it again. It says sub is not defined. Now what to do? Let me change the sequence. Let me put this definition first and then after calling. Okay. Now running fine. Why is it so? First of all, we were having add function, right? That we have run very simply, but the definition was before calling. Then after I change that, that is, I have called first and then after put the definition. But see, when you once run this code, the function is there in the memory, RAM, we can say. So it will not create the problem if you are putting it before calling or after calling. But for this function, when we call it before this definition, it was creating problem. Are you getting this? In Python, it is required that definition should come before calling the function, right? Before calling the function. Okay, so take care of it. So we should not put it here. We should put it before this. Okay, you can say now it's not issue. No, but the thing is, see, just now you are having this program open. The things are there in main memory, but is it the case every time? No, today you will close this program. Again, tomorrow you will open. At that time also the thing will be available? No, it will not be available in the main memory, right? So write it properly. Fine. Okay. So this is the simplest function. For defining the function, we need to have def, that is definition, right? Def function name, in parenthesis we are having the parameters. Like in C or Java, we do not have integer, float, double parameter type, because in Python we are not having such thing required, right? And so we will not write anything here. Okay. Yeah, if you want to convert that, then you may use it, but we do not want to have it. So this is the simplest function. Now we can say we want to have the print string. What it says? First of all, say definition of print string. That means def print string. We are passing the parameter, that is str, and print string. Whatever is the string passed to it, we are printing it, right? And how we can call this function, that is print string hello world. Fine. Now, what we say is function allows us to break complex program in small subproblems. Function allows to hide details, and that is the abstraction it provides. Fine. So for this, if we want to run the program, we are having here in Colab, right? Let us run this. What it gives us is the hello world, right? If you want to change that, you can change it. Let me run it. Fine. Okay. But instead of giving such random text, it is always preferred to give proper text. So you as well as your examiner can understand it properly. Fine. So better to give meaningful text. Okay. Do not give the name as dot A B C D E F G. No, do not give it that way. It is always preferred to give proper names. So anyone can remember as well as understand. Fine. Now find max of four numbers. It's a nice question from any of the certification course which I have done. So in that, what was that? So typically you can say if you want to find the max of four numbers, how the less than one number less than number two less than number three. That way the conditions, the number of conditions you can have, and you can say that you will be able to have the max of four numbers. That is a normal thing. Okay. So what we are having here, it is different. Let us check it out. How we are having that? X1 is equal to 5, x2 is equal to 3, x3 is equal to 10, x4 is equal to 1, y1 is equal to mean of x1, x2. To find the max, we are using what? To find the max, we are using minimum function, right? Minimum function is directly available in Python, so we can use that. So y1 is equal to minimum of x1, x2. Now y2 is equal to minimum of x3, x4. y3 is equal to x1 plus x2 minus y1. So what happens? x1, x2, in that whatever is minimum that we have stored in the y1, right? That we have stored in the y1. Now what we are doing is we are taking x1 plus x2 minus y1. So whatever was the minimum, that is being removed. Fine. So max is remaining. After that, y4 is equal to x3 plus x4 minus y2. y2 is what? It is the minimum of x3 and x4, right? So what we have done is we have removed that minimum. So now we can say that this y3 is having max of x1, x2, and we can say y4 is having the max of x3 and x4, right? So now what we are doing is y5 is equal to max of y3, y4, right? And we can say what is the max of all these things? That is y5, right? You can say why should we do all these things? See, if it is being given this way, you will not think what should be the output of it, right? It is nothing like whether it is 10 or 20 or 30, but if somebody asks you that what is the logic of it, right? Say 1 mark MCQ question can be there, that what it is going to give you. Is it going to give you minimum value, maximum value, or you can say uh, only x1, only x2, something like this can be asked to you. Fine. So we can say max of x1, x2, x3, x4 is being asked, right? Is being found in this problem, right? So this is a problem statement, and only say four options are there. What this program gives you output, right? Not like 10 or 3 or 5 or 1, but minimum, maximum, you can say mean, or you can say summation, any other, right? So you need to choose it as it is giving us max, right? Very nice question. I really like it. Now, what do we have is actual and formal parameters. Typically, we used to say that the actual parameters and the formal parameters in case of the function, right? Execution of function using stack, right? Execution of function is always using stack. See, the concept of functions are not changed for Python. Okay, so we already know that what is the concept of function. The way it is being written is different. Otherwise, the concept remains same, that it uses the stack. Fine. Recursion means the function calls itself repeatedly, right? That is also known to us. Recursion means function calls itself repeatedly. Fine. Now, let us see one simple function. We can have the idea. Def. Factorial n. We want to find the factorial of n. All of you know factorial means, say if I want to find the factorial of 5, we'll be having 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, right? Or you can say 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5, right? So that's what we want to implement here. So what we'll be doing? Def factorial n colon if n is less than or equal to 1 colon return 1. Should I explain you the logic of this factorial function? It is very simple, isn't it? See, since your first year, you are writing this function, isn't it? So what we are doing is, we know that n factorial, that means n 0 factorial is also 1 and 1 factorial is also 1. So we are having the terminating condition for this function, that is if n is less than or equal to 1, return 1. Or otherwise what do we say is return n into factorial of n minus 1. This is the recursion, isn't it? Because function call itself, right? This function factorial calls itself. Okay. Now what we do is we are printing say 5 factorial. This is text only, comma we are calling the function that is factorial of 5, right? So whatever is the output, that will be printed here. Fine. Print 10 factorial and we are calling the function that is factorial, right? So we'll be getting the output accordingly. Fine. Let us run and check it out. Right. This is the function which we have already seen, right? We can run it here and see the output. Fine. Okay. Now, what we have seen just now, that is, we can say recursion, right? Let me show you that. Factorial, right? 5 factorial and 10 factorial. Fine. Now, let us have the Fibonacci. What is there in Fibonacci series? We can say that first two numbers are 0 and 1. After that, what we can say is we are having the summation of last two terms, right? So 0 and 1 are the first two terms. Now next will be the summation of last two. That means 1 and 0. So we can say it will be 1. After that, what is the next? That is last two numbers addition. So 1 and 1, that is 2, right? That way we can say 2 and 1 is 3. Fine. So this is the Fibonacci number that is known to us. For that, let us have the function that is def Fibonacci of n, right? Terminating conditions is always must for the recursive function. Otherwise, it will only go in the loop, right? So for that, we can say if n is equal to 1, return 0. If n is less than or equal to 3, return 1. Else, return Fibonacci n minus 1 plus Fibonacci n minus 2, right? Because we want to have the previous two terms, right? Addition. So that's what we are doing here. And we can say, is it the output? No, it is not the output. First of all, we should call the function, isn't it? So for that, print Fibonacci of 7. So what it will do is, it will pass this n It will call this function, and after that we can say we'll be getting the output, right? So what it will give us, let us run this, getting the output as 8, right? Getting the output as 8. Fine. Now I want to show you one very nice example. It is the variable number of arguments. What I want to show you is variable number of arguments. Now what is that? Variable. What do we mean by variable number of arguments? It means that if I want to pass, say 2 parameters, it is fine. If I want to pass 3 parameters, fine. If I want to pass 0 parameters, then also fine. It doesn't give me any error. In C language, we used to have, say, 2 parameters are there, and if we are giving 1, it will give us error, right? Here, we want to have variable number of arguments. So for that, very nice thing is that it is something like pointer, right? So do we consider pointers are there? No, we do not consider that. But if we want to have the variable number of arguments, we can use this. That is def varargs, the function name. Then for parameter, we consider star arg, right? So after that, what do we have is for I in arg, print I and is equal to dot, right? It is up to you whether you want to use it or not. But if we are having something like this, the output will be occupying less space, right? So that is preferred. After that, we can say we'll be printing, say, one line only, okay? So let us call this function varargs with 1 argument, varargs with 2 arguments, and varargs with 3 arguments. Let us run this. 1 argument, it considers 1. 2 argument, it prints 2. And for 3 arguments, it prints 3. Wow, that's great of it, isn't it? If it is so, let us see one program where if the parameters are 2, def say v variable arg, we can say, let us say it is having 2 parameters, and what we do is we are returning, say, a plus b. It is addition only, simple one. But what we want to check is we want to call it with different parameters, say 1, 2, 3, right? The way we have taken for previous example, we are calling it, right? Variable arg, and we are passing, say, 1. We want to print the output. So let us say we are calling inside the print. Let's say here variable args 1, 2. Then we can say variable args 1, 2, and 3, right? It is not the way we have used before, right? Before we have used, that was what? That was the star, right? Like we can say we were having like pointer, right? Array, right? Pointer we have passed, right? So the way we were having in C, right? Here we are not talking of anything like pointer, but the spatial use is this way. Fine. Now, if I pass the different parameters like this to one simple function, yeah, here it is. Let us run this. Is it giving us error or not? The way we were having in our C language, that's what we want to check it out, okay? Let us run it. Yeah, red mark. Print variable arg 1. See, this is interpreted language, isn't it? So wherever the error is there, it stops at that point only. Okay. So it says variable arg missing 1, required position for B, right? A and B, 2 are there. So only 1 is provided, second is not there. right? So here it's not possible if we are giving the less arguments. Okay, so let us check it out if we are giving more arguments. For this, it will run fine because 1 and 2, so required 2 arguments are there. But for this, let's check it out. Less parameters, then it should give error. For more parameters, should it give it a error? Let us check it out, okay? Now it is giving type error. Why? Variable arg takes 2 positional arguments, but 3 were given, right? So for normal function, for normal parameters, variable argument is not possible, right? So this we have experimented and seen that variable argument to normal parameters function is not possible, right? Is not possible, isn't it? Variable argument to normal function, right? Normal function means with normal parameters, right? Okay, so that is not possible, right? Uh-oh. Yeah, fine. Okay, so this is not possible. Fine. So we should have the star R, then only it will work. Fine. But this is what is required many a times. So we should have the idea, isn't it? Now this, we want to know about assert keyword. What is that? Assert keyword. The assert keyword is used when debugging code. The assert keyword lets you test if a condition in your code returns true. If not, the program will raise an assertion error. What do we want to say is assert is a keyword where it is being useful when we want to debug the code. So, are we going to use a particular key like in C? We were using F7 for, say, Borland C or Turbo C editor? No. So, what is that? It is debugging. But how are we doing that? That is, the assert keyword lets you test if a condition in the code returns true. If not, it will raise an assertion error, right? If the condition is not true, then it will return or you can say it will raise, actually not return, but proper word is it will raise the assertion error. Okay, so if the condition returns true, then nothing happens. And if condition is false, assertion error is raised. Okay, so let us see the example, how to use it. It's very simple, but let us check it out. X is equal to hello. Assert X is equal to hello. What is the condition? That is X is hello or not, right? Assert X is equal to hello. Then nothing happens. Why? Because this condition returns true. Now, assert X is equal to goodbye. Then we'll be having assertion error is raised. Let us check it out by running it. Here is the same example, right? Let us run this. X is equal to hello. Assert X is equal to hello. Nothing happens. Let me show you again running. Any output? No output. Okay. Let us say now assert X is equal to goodbye. Value of X is hello. We are checking whether X is goodbye or not. Let us run this. Red mark. Assertion error. Right? So if we want to have something like this, will be using, right? For debugging, we can say. You can say, ma'am, why should we use something like this? We can have if else condition, isn't it? We can have the if else condition and we can have this, isn't it? But not only for this, but for function debugging, people are typically using it, right? So whether the function has returned properly or not, for that, instead of giving the condition like if it is this, do this, if it is, else it is this, we do not need to have, right? Simple thing is, let us have the assert, right? Let us have the assert x is equal to goodbye, and you can say check it out whether it is giving us an error or not, right? Here it says S is an error, but X should be hello, right? If X is hello, then only we can say that will be having the return as true, right? X and function also should be hello, right? Okay. So let us proceed. We want to have the scope rules. Scope. What do we mean by scope? Scope of a name is a part of the program in which the name can be used. Here, name can be name of identifier or function. If somebody tells you Dr. Ami Chokshi, so you will recognize, isn't it? Why? Because you already know, right? How do you know? Because you are part of this computer engineering department of C.K. Pitawala College of Engineering and Technology, where you are the student and I am the faculty. Okay, our scope is same. Our scope is same. So you can identify me. I can identify you because you are the student of the same scope. Are you getting it? If somebody from other college, can I identify that person? I may not. Depends whether that person is known to me by any other way or not. So typically I can say that persons of other college, they are not part of my scope. And so I do not know. They are not accessible to me. If I want to pass any workshop, any training information to say other college student, then will I be able to access those students directly? No, I cannot access them directly. So what should I do? I should tell to faculties of that college whom I know. Then they will forward the training information to their students, right? So these students of other college, they are not part of my scope, right? So that's what we want to know here. Scope of a name is the part of the program in which the name can be used. Here, name can be the name of identifier or the function. Okay, so two variables can have the same name only if they are declared in separate scopes. See, if in our college we are having say two persons with the name say Ami Chokshi, then how can you separate them? How can you separate them? See, it may be the case that one is available in the computer department, one is available in, say, other department. Then you can say computer department Ami Chokshi and say other department Ami Chokshi, right? So that way you can uniquely identify, right? So this is what is being said, that two variables can have the same name only if they are declared in separate scopes. Okay, my scope is computer department, other person's scope is other department, right? So this is what we want to say here. Fine. A variable cannot be used outside its scope. Anybody cannot access me, right? If anybody of any college cannot directly access me, they have to come through proper channel, right? Otherwise, they cannot access me, right? Something like this. Let us learn static scoping or lexical scoping, right? That we will learn. But the thing is, things in your room, will anybody be having the access to it? No. Yeah, your friends are there. You can give access to some things of you. Your parents are there. They are having access of your some more things. But any stranger, will they be able to come to your room and use your things? No. They are not in your scope, right? They are not in your scope. They will not be able to access the things, right? Very simple example. Okay, so scope rules of functions. The scope rules of variables available in the argument list of a function's definition is the body of that function. Whatever we are writing, say function add and a comma b, that is this scope of the variables available in the argument list of the function definition is the body of that function. If a variable is assigned within a function, its scope is body of that function. If you are trying to access it outside it, it is not accessible, right? A name is added to the scope associated with a function only under the above two cases, right? So name is added to scope associated with a function only if it is there in the argument list or if it is there in the body of the function, right? So that is the scope rule of the function, right? Okay, let us have very simple function, that is mean and max. You can say it is already available. Fine, we can define that also. Fine, okay. So def max a1 comma b1. So m1 is equal to 0. If a1 is less than b1, m1 is equal to a1, as m1 is equal to b1. So simple logic is there, and return m1. The same way for minimum function, mean a2 b2, m2 is equal to 0. If a2 is less than b2, here we were having the condition that was greater than, here we are having the condition that is less than. Fine. Other logic remains same. Now, m1 is equal to 9. We are calling the function. m1 is equal to 9. Now, print max 57. m1 is used inside the max function, right? And we can say 57 we have passed. So what is the maximum? That is 7. After that, if we print m1, what should we get? Should we get whatever the value was there in the function? No, we should get whatever is there over here, right? Because the scope of this m1 is here, and that way the value of m1 is 9, which is there in this scope. And whatever is a value inside this function, it is not accessible, right? So 7 is the value of m1 in the max function, but that will not be printed here. Yes, that will be printed while we call the max function because it is a returning value. Fine. Same way for m2 is equal to 10. If we are calling the minimum function with 5 and 7 arguments, we'll be getting it as 5. Okay. That is a minimum value. But when we print the m2, we are getting the value that is 10 because this value is there in the scope. Whatever value was there inside this function, that is not in the scope when we are printing this variable. Right? So we can see the running, we can have the idea. Fine. Let us call the function. Though we are getting the return value as 7, there is m1, but it has returned the value and the scope of that M1 is finished. So now this M1 is there in the existence for this particular scope, right? Same way for this one, that is for M2, which is calling the main function. Fine. Now, let us study the next topic, that is nested function. Python provides the support of function inside other function, and that is called the nested function, right? Suppose x is used in body of function f, it will be searched in function g, in which, suppose x is used in body of function f, x is not found in body of function f. What do we say? X is used in body of function f, x is not found in body of function f. It will be searched in function g. What do we say is x is used in body of f. What is confusion? It is there in f, but it is not found in f. Then it will be searched in g. What it is? It is confusing, isn't it? No, it is not confusing. What it is said, let me show you. Let me show you that way only, f and g. So it makes your life simple. What I mean to say is def, what function? F, right? Now, inside this, let us say that def g. What we said is function inside function, right? So here we can be having, say, few arguments or zero arguments. Here also we are having something. Here x is defined. Say x is equal to 5. Now, say print x, right? Print x. Now, what is the case? It's not doing anything. Something wrong? We haven't called the function, right? We haven't called the function f. Let me call the function f. Okay, let me run this. No, put some problem. No, that's what we should know how to do that, right? Let's see. Hope you understood the meaning of it, that suppose x is used in function f. We want to use it inside the function f, but it is not defined in the function f. That is in the body. Whatever is the body, in that we are not using, but it is there in the g function. Hope it is clear from this particular body, right? This is f. So this x is actually not defined somewhere inside this. The way we used to see that this f is there, so somewhere here it should be available, x is equal to 5 or whatever, right? But it is not available that way. So where it is available? It is available inside the g, which is inside the f. This is nested function, right? Function inside function is nested function. Okay, so x is used. This x is used, but it is not defined in this body. Where it is available? In the body of g, right? So where it will be searched? It will be searched in the function g, right? In which the function f was defined, right? Okay. So what do we see? If this is the case, it will find in G, right? If it is here, and if this is here, then what we can say? It will be, if this is G and this is F, then we can say it is reverse case, right? See, it does not matter whether F is outside or G is outside. The thing is, if it is not available here, but it is used, then you can say it will find in the inside function. Okay. So, let's see. Simple example of, say, nested function example. So, what we are having? Define outer function text. Text is equal to text. Whatever we have passed, that only we are taking as this one. Or if you want, you can have any other variable to def. Nested function. Print text. Then after, nested function. What is that? What is this nested function? That will call this particular function, right? Now, calling the outer function. That is this one. So please see the indentation properly. This is defined function, okay? Inside that, this is the indentation, okay? Now inside that only the function is written. So def nested function. Inside that, this text is there. This code is there, okay? Now for this one, this nested function, is it there inside this function? No, it is not there. It is not part of this function. Otherwise, we should have written it this way. Fine. That is the indentation is required. Fine. Now, this outer function call, is it part of this function? No, it is not. You can see the indentation. This D is here and this O is here. Fine. It is not part of this outer function. Got it? Now, let's see how we are running it. Let me have, say, any other variable. This also is fine, but let us have this P. Okay, so you can have the difference between this parameter of the function and this is the inner value, right? That's what I wanted to show. Let me remove this by run it. So high is printed. High is defined here. Nested function. No, it is not that. So what do we want to say is, if this P is not defined in this function, then it is used. This T is not defined in this function, but it is used here. So where will it search for? It will search for this function, right? In this outer function, it will check. Okay. Now, what happens if we reverse it? Let me put it here. P is equal to the text. Now, where this is available? It is available in inside function. Okay. Now, what I'll do is, here I'll use print T. Will it find? Name error, right? So, what is the meaning of it? That inner function, if uses this T, then it can be defined either inside this function or inside the outer function. Okay. But if you can say T is used in the outer function, it must be defined in the outer function. Got it? So let us have that this way. Instead of that, put it here. That is in the outer function. And then after we can say calling it or using it in the inner function. Right? So what was the case? Here, this x is equal to 5. Is it accessible here? No, it is not accessible here, right? It can be accessible if it is written here. Let us now see. Print x, then we can say, let us call. This calling of this function is also required. That is f. Okay. And here we have changed the sequence, isn't it? While I was showing you that. So now, what is the case? In G is the outer function. Inside that, x is equal to 7 is written. There we have printed x. Here it is defined, here it is used. Here it is defined, here it is used. Now, is it giving us some problem or is it working fine? Is it taking value of x is equal to 7 or is it taking the value of x is equal to 5 or what? Let us run and check it out. What it says for this first print. Is it going to print this first? First of all, what it is calling is f. Okay, it is calling f. So what is the case? Let me see this. Is it going to call this f first of all? It will call this g first, right? Why? Because this is a definition given. This is the definition given. Okay, let me print one more thing here. Print in G. Okay, that is outer G. This is part of G only, but it is in inner function, right? So here, let me write it as print in F. Okay, so you can have the idea. Okay. Okay, let me run this. What it does in G, first of all, this G is called, right? It is calling this, that is x is equal to 7. The value of x is 7, so in G, and it is printing the value that is 7. Okay, in G, 7. After that, what happens? That it is going inside this particular function. So what happens? Here we are having the calling of this f. Where it is? Is it going inside this function? No, it is actually not going inside the definition. But in this G, we have called this f. And so it will go here, right? If I remove this, it will not go inside that. Okay, so f is called and so it will take x is equal to 5. Print x, so it will consider the value of 5 and in f. Why is it so? Because always the local parameter is having the precedence for the function, right? Whatever is the local parameter is there, it is having higher precedence than that of the value of mean, we used to say, or otherwise we can say outer function, right? Locally, whatever is there, that is available to us, right? Okay, so it is clear that if in the nested, that is in the inside inner function, if the variable is used and it is not defined inside this inner function, it will search where? In the outer function. Okay, but reverse is not true, right? Otherwise it will give us the name error, right? Okay. Now let us see the global variable. For example, say count is equal to 5, our global variable, right? Is it so? It is the variable, right, which is available throughout the program. Okay, but what I say, def increment, global count. Now I am saying it as global. Count is equal to count plus 1. What should it do? Should it consider any other value? Does it have any value inside this? That is count is equal to 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or anything? No, it is using the global count, right? Okay, so we'll see that. Decrement, global count. Here also we are using it as global. Count is equal to count minus 1. Now, let us see the way we are calling it. Increment. We are calling the function increment. So what should happen? Global count. It is considering global count. Count is equal to count plus 1. So count will be incremented and that will be 6. Decrement. So whatever is the value available now, in after executing this function, whatever is the value of count that is globally available, and that value only we are taking here, global count. So count is equal to count minus 1. It will decrement this count and we'll be getting it as 5. Right? Let us run this and check it out. Okay, so what value it is taking? It is taking the value which is available here, global value, right? And that is why it is modifying the global value, and that is why after calling the increment, if we are calling the decrement, it is taking the global value. Is it so? Because here we have written, no, here also we have written global. So whatever is the global value of count, that it is taking, right? Okay, so this way we have to use it global. Fine. So that's all for today.